some like house money situation at all. Like they look at it like a 60-minute opportunity, the same as Detroit's got. And they've ridden the shoulders of Daniels all year. Nothing has changed, but the stage is bigger tonight. What do you expect?
I expect them to perform. Listen, this is the thing that we haven't talked about because we've been so focused on Jaden, and rightfully so. Dan Quinn's been here before. He understands what the playoffs mean. He understands how to get a team ready. You can still hear guys in Dallas locker room talk about how much respect they have for DQ. And that for me, Scott, is not about the X's and O's and execution. A big part of the playoffs is to get in and believe you can win every game to get to the Super Bowl. And that's a big part of what you need to do with a young team. We talked last week about how stoic Jaden is in these moments. A lot of that is a reflection of the coaching and the responsibility that they give you and the confidence that they give you as well. When you look at the sideline throughout the game, and I went back and watched film because we talked about Jaden and his demeanor. Them veterans on the sideline believe that they're going to go make a play. Yeah. And that is what you have to have in these games. And y'all hear me say it all the time because a lot of times, right, the beauty about our game is it's the best team that can be consistent for 3 hours for 4 weeks that wins a Super Bowl. Not necessarily the best team when you look at it on paper.
Jason, I'm curious, the stakes, though, for Washington, they are different than Detroit because this is the first time they've been a one. Like, they were so close to knocking the door down last year. From their perspective, Detroit, I think they carry a different weight into this game, don't they?
Yeah, well, there's more pressure on Detroit, obviously, from the way they've played the last couple of years. The expectation coming into the season was high. I mean, Washington, even though they're coming into this game fully expecting to compete and win, they're playing with house money a little bit, right? Like, they've already overachieved what the expectation was coming into the year. But I still don't think that's going to affect them, and I think they're going to get, as much of Detroit as they can get. These guys are so physical.
Yeah.
The run game is so dynamic. The playmakers all over the place. I know they're banged up on defense, but that offense is still fully loaded and then some. This kid Gibbs is just an unbelievable talent. Ben Johnson is finding ways to utilize him that are creative and just fun to watch. And I'm going to echo what you just said, Swag. I think Dan Quinn, I've been talking about this all year with Washington. It feels like, from a personnel standpoint, they don't feel like they should be here yet, if I'm being honest. I think Dan has done such a great job of getting the most out of all those guys. They brought in a veteran like Bobby Wagner, who clearly offers leadership on that side. Jonathan Allen is now back. Deron Payton inside. Maybe they can hold up a little bit better against the run than they might have been able to a couple weeks ago.
RC, if you tell me this is an all 4 downs, all 10 yards game, what's that mean?
Well, it means one thing for each team, right? When you look at the Detroit Lions, the reason you have to play 4 downs is because of Ben Johnson, because of the creativity, the skilled players, the physicality of the offensive line. And when you look at the Washington Commanders, just because of the quarterback. And that's the one reason that they have that sort of resolve. They have that sort of belief. Bobby Wagner was mic'd up last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And when they got to 4th and 2 in the red zone, he's screaming from the sideline, go for it, go for it. Because he understands how Jaden Daniels has money in those situations. But we may not see a punt today. Both of those dudes can come out in street clothes. We know that Dan Campbell is going to be aggressive. Dan Quinn has been aggressive this entire season. And when you have the playmakers on both sides of the offense in this game, you're going to see these guys be aggressive. And there could be a coach's decision that becomes the decision that tells us who wins or loses this game.
Kirk, I think we all looked at this Detroit defense that suffered significant losses on all 3 levels of big-time playmakers throughout this season, and we wondered how can they continue to stand up. But then I think you could argue their best defensive performance of the season came in that all-in game against Minnesota.
Most recent game.
They really bottled up Darnold. He had 12 goal-to-go situations, didn't score a single touchdown. So maybe they found some answers. Anzalone comes back. What do you expect to see from Detroit on that side of the ball tonight?
Well, I think they are thinned out, and I do think the Detroit Lions offense, they found a formula that we can still win scoring 30, 40, 50 points if our defense is thin. But there is not much room for error. The Detroit Lions offense, I expect to have a great game. But they're going to have a great game because if the Lions defense gets a little leaky against a potentially generational quarterback, it could be back and forth, up and down the field. And so it's hard to win in the playoffs without an elite defense. And I'm not saying the Lions defense wasn't elite in Week 18. but they have been thinned out.
Scott,
I don't want to alarm
what was
anybody.
that?
That card was really important. The things that were written on that card, I don't really know. I don't know what to do.
We got our stage manager, Mike, right there. Mike, take the card in there, Mike.
There we go.
If we get, though, honestly, it's the playoffs, right? And Marcus, I can't believe he hasn't said this. Every college football playoff game, Marcus texts me some point in the game and goes 1-0.
1-0.
And he's telling me, he said, all Jordan and Notre Dame have to do is be 1-0 today. That's exactly what's happening between Detroit and Washington.
I have one curiosity. I'm curious where you guys land with this. The way Washington beat Tampa Bay, there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, Tampa makes a couple of mistakes and they get magnified. There were only 7 possessions, in part because Washington goes on these clock-eating 17-play drives. That's the exact recipe you want in Detroit, is it not? Eat clock. Don't let Detroit have their hands on the football because they, by rule, they could score without their hands on the ball. They could go the other way. But that seems like that's got to be their plan.
Well, the other piece of it is, too, you keep them off of the field, but if you're Dan Quinn, here's the scenario you want. You want a one-score game and the football in Jaden Daniels' hands. We've seen it 6 times this season, and in 6 of those times, he's come up with game-winning drives.
In this game early, if this young man can answer the pressure from Aaron Glenn, we'll have a 4-quarter game. If he lures him into a couple mistakes early, it could get away because that offense from Detroit knows who they are now. Now, we've talked about Washington, and rightfully so. Them damn Lions will run it down your throat, cuz, and they will make you pay for every single mistake you made. It was the Minnesota game. They made them pay every single time Darnold made a mistake. It'll be interesting to see early if Jaden gets rattled. But the point we made last week is we've never seen him get rattled.
Well, I was just going to say, the game plan for Washington is keeping Detroit's offense on the field. Probably is the same game plan for Detroit. Keep that kid off the field. Let's control the line of scrimmage and control the
There can be very few at-bats for both offenses. So when you get a 3rd down, you got to convert. You get a 4th down, you got to convert because you punt, you may not see the ball again for another 45 minutes.